Hi everyone, today we are going to have a discussion about Port City investments in Sri Lanka because given the current global situation, Port City has been on a spotlight and a lot of people talking about how we can invest in Port City and how Sri Lanka can be benefited out of Port City investment opportunities. But before getting to Port City, we just completed our Thomson Sydney International Property Expo, and Taamara, thank you so much for coming and representing Port City at the Expo. And this is for the first time we brought all the Sri Lankan major developers under one roof so people can make their informed decisions, naming John Keel's Property, Sri Lanka's largest property developer, Homelands, Prime Lands, and all the Melbourne major developers, apartment developers, Thailand, retirement villas. We have been introducing working from Sri Lanka concept, working from paradise concept, retire in Sri Lanka, all of these concepts and combined together under one roof, given the facilitations as well, financial services and all under one roof. So people came in and had a look at it, and adding into that, Port City came in and stage at the Property Expo, explaining and offering what Port City can be, how people can benefit out of Port City as well. So we had that very strong Property Expo in Sydney, and we are going to have the same thing in Melbourne. And Taamara and the Port City team is coming to Melbourne, and we are planning to host an information night before the Port City, before the Melbourne Expo as well. And to discuss that, we have Mr. Taamara Silva from Sri Lanka Port City. Taamara, welcome to the program. And,
Thank you, Sanjika.
And we just finished our Thomson International Property Expo in Sydney. You all the way came for that, and thank you for that. And before we get into the nitty-gritties of Port City, what do you think about the Expo, how it went, and what is your initial feedback about how the Australia, especially Sydney people, reacting to the Port City concept in Sri Lanka?
I think, it's the first time that we as Port City have sort of aggressively looked at the Australian market and having a very strong relationship with the Thomson, Nerys. We believe that it was a good opportunity for us to make inroads, and I think the quality of the participants to the expo is something that I want to highlight. At the same time, there's a very strong Sri Lankan community that is interested to support Sri Lanka.
Yes.
And that is something that we witnessed, at least I witnessed during my conversations with some of these very prominent characters who actually participated.
Yeah.
So that's yeah.
Having said that, Taamara, and to the broader audience, I think if anyone who missed that expo in Sydney, but for people in Melbourne, we're doing the same and a bigger expo in May 30th and 31st, and I'm being told that Port City is coming back to the Melbourne Expo as well, and we are planning to have a information night on 29th, so people can register to get the information. Before getting to all these information, and Port City has been in discussion and on spotlight for many reasons, because current situation in the Middle East, and especially people were looking at Dubai all the time. Now all of a sudden the spotlight is coming to Sri Lanka because of the Port City. And I also think which is a golden opportunity for Sri Lanka as well, economically and the country's perspective. That will attract a lot of foreign remittance and opportunities for the country through the Port City investments. And Taamara, before we discuss about what are the opportunities, how people can engage, there are two types of Port City investments: either the development opportunities as well as offshore businesses can operate within the Port City and get the financial benefits. The legality, this is a special economic zone. Taamara, would you explain what is Port City and how it's different to the rest of the country's regulations? I know it is governed by separate financial regulations. So can you explain what is Port City first, so then we can go into the details of how we can benefit out of it?
Absolutely, Sanjika. So like you rightly said, it is an offshore setup, and it is one of the largest and most ambitious projects Sri Lanka has undertaken in terms of reclaiming and extending the central business district of Colombo and adding 269 hectares of reclaimed land, which not only gives additional space for a master plan city and a smart city, leveraging the best practices from similar developments in Dubai, in Singapore, in India, etc. Port City essentially now has not only the commercial aspect but also the touristic aspect with the beachfront, ability to have hospitality projects. There is an opportunity for a mixed sort of integrated resort and casino project as well. We are now going to have a marina where you can berth 250 to 300 mid to large sized yachts. At the same time, there is a strong potential to attract businesses, like you rightly said, to set up and operate out of the port city and to provide their services to a global clientele. Now, what is interesting is firstly the location. If you look at Port City, it is strategically placed with access to both the South and Southeast Asia as well as the Middle Eastern European regions. So centrally located, there is a huge advantage to connect both these regions across the shipping routes. And Port City also is within close proximity, maybe 3-4 hours flight time to probably some of the most influential cities in the world.
Correct. And Taamara, the other important thing is the Port City is actually strategically located next to our main harbor, so which will have a benefit, and also the freeway connecting to the mainland right in the middle of the Port City, which gives direct access to the airport and all these facilities, which is all these infrastructure. What is the status now? It's all uncompleted now, the infrastructure wise, where we are at the Port City.
Yes, so in terms of where we stand, Port City has so the project is about a $1.5 billion investment.
How many acres, if you look at the size, which is this reclaimed land?
So it's about 270 hectares, which would sort of, if you look at it in terms of size, so I'll try to explain this in proportion. So, so Jumeirah Palm in Dubai is about a 500 hectare sized development.
Right.
Pearl Doha in Dubai is about 400 hectares. So Port City is slightly smaller with about 270 hectares, but you get the drift.
Correct. And given the global positioning in the country now, if you look at Sri Lanka, could be a pretty much it's centrally located in the middle of the world, which can be a transit location to Australia, to Europe, to Middle East, everywhere. So we are in the middle, and it's close to the international routes, sea and air roads as well. So which will attract a lot of traffic, I guess, to Sri Lanka. But given this is a special economic zone, now in Sri Lanka, central bank regulates the incoming and outgoing traffic of financial transactions. So a lot of people looking at Port City as a free economic zone, that will have a same effect like you invested in Dubai, right? So can you explain that, how that is going to be differently regulated compared to the inland transactions?
The Port City now has a set of established processes and procedures, which may not necessarily have to be connected to the mainland because it is operated through a separate act. And that is why it makes a lot of sense. And like I mentioned before, we've looked at similar sort of models in Singapore, in Dubai, etc. And we've tried to take out, what could potentially be a frontier sort of a investment and facilitate global financial operations. So the Port City is economically ring-fenced, which means that all transactions are executed in foreign currencies. So there are 16 foreign currencies, including the Australian
So you can
dollar.
transact in 16 foreign currencies,
Correct, yes.
including Australian, and people who purchase assets within the Port City can operate these international bank accounts within the country as a port city accounts. Is that correct?
Correct. So there is also a separate framework. So there is an offshore banking framework, which is currently the operational procedures are being deliberated on. However, there is also dedicated port city investment accounts, which are now functional. And the port city setup is there are basically capital. There is a free movement of capital within the port city. So the investment that you bring in can also be taken out without the mainland capital restrictions.
So that gives a bit of freedom for people to freely operate your transactions.
Absolutely.
Now, coming back to that point, and with S.A. Thomson, now we are promoting all the residential developers who are currently started an engage project, and S.A. Thomson, we facilitated some of those transactions, and that's why we are having this discussion that any investors can connect through S.A. Thomson to connect to Port City as agents for Australia. And anyone who buying apartment, which is an important point, I want to get your clarification on that, which is buying an apartment, the rentability will increase because whoever gonna rent those apartments, once completed, they get the visas, working visas for the time of the rental lease agreement. Is that correct? And can you elaborate that a little bit?
So unlike on the mainland, the port city is a dedicated zone, especially for attracting investment. To make this more attractive, whoever who invests in apartments has the ability to lease or rent them with a visa for the duration of the lease or the rent, which means that compared to the mainland, this becomes a more attractive rental proposition for any investor, because when they have this, there is always the ability to rent this with the visa free
and even any foreigners going to the country to work within Sri Lanka, within the port city, can lease out an apartment within the port city. They will get a working visa for the period of the lease agreement of your apartment.
So anyhow, if you look at the work mechanism, if there are companies registered within the port city and assigned as authorized persons, now these companies can operate anyway.
Yes.
So there are two categories. So there are categories of participants who would operate within the port city as port city employees.
Yes.
Within businesses that are being set up and incorporated within the port city.
So we want to go to that as a separate point, because anyone can offering services to international markets can set up as a port city company and operate, and their employees can get the working visa.
Yes, you're right.
As port city employees.
Correct.
And then the second category is that if someone buying an apartment and renting that apartment to a foreigner, who then will get visas as well.
You're right,
and
yes.
if someone buying an apartment and as a foreigner buying an apartment and going to move into that apartment as a owner, still you get the visa. So that's all it will eliminate people to obtain any 10-year golden residence visa or any other visas, because this will give the working opportunity directly, which is a good news for all the investors trying to buy apartment, and when they are renting, or people setting up businesses, which is what I want to come up to that point.
Sure.
And coming back to our main discussion about port city investments, now port city has been looked at as a spotlight, as a opportunity and alternative solution from what's happening in the Middle Eastern region, especially Dubai. Now Sri Lanka being in our strategic global location, after Dubai, who is going to be our main competitor to port city? So if you look at, so we need to compare who are our competitors and how we can strategically position Sri Lanka port city on top of the rest of the competitors around the region. Can you elaborate a little bit on that as well?
So I think, Sanjika, if you look at port city's value proposition, right, it is there is a tourism aspect to it. There is also the ability to work while enjoying the better quality of life, so to speak of, in terms of accessibility, in terms of it being a smart city, in terms of it being sort of a city with a beachfront.
So all of a sudden, Colombo now have a beachfront,
Absolutely.
and people can enjoy beach what we have
Correct.
created within the port city.
Absolutely. In addition to that, we'll also talk a little bit about why Port City is interesting, specifically in the aftermath of the crisis in West Asia, challenges in Europe and various other regions. Port City is an up and coming destination, and it is a destination which is it is not mature. Right now, you're comparing Dubai and Singapore, which are more mature markets. So when you enter a mature market, there is always a premium to be paid.
Exactly.
Now, in Port City, since this is an evolving market and it is being shaped, your entry point is going to be at a very sort of early stage, which means there is that opportunity that you can take up.
Room to growth, I guess.
Absolutely.
So that is a very good point because at SA Thomson actually we are promoting and selling all the apartment developers selling within the port city. So for them this will be an opportunity to as an early entry point. Absolutely. Where you can expect capital growth out of that as well. But also other important point is when it comes to port city that anyone who's developing within the port city, as per the Port City regulation, they can sell only 40% of the building to the locals, which I guess believe will create more demand within the country as well. So can you elaborate this 40-60 split, and 60% has to go to overseas, right?
So it's not, it doesn't, so that's not exactly how it is structured. I mean, in terms of the regulation, how it has been structured is if there is a local company that is investing, the land portion can be invested into in the local currency. Yeah. And the development capital needs to be brought through foreign collaborations or investment. So that is, I think, one of the core objectives of the port city, which is to encourage foreign direct investment into Sri Lanka and be kind of a catalyst for growth, and to also take advantage of the spillover effects by setting up this world-class destination and attracting large brands, foreign, expat communities, so that these communities will then obtain the services from the mainland, and so that spillover effect will enable the catchment areas to benefit, and as a whole the Sri Lankan economy.
Yeah, and if you look at the port city entire reclaimed land, the structure of that, which includes obviously the residential projects which people can buy apartments, and also hotels and various other segments of land plots being allocated. Can you explain what are the overall investments coming in, as whether is it a hospital, sure, whether it's sporting facilities, what going to be ended up once it all completed?
So right, Sanjika, good question. So I mean, the port city itself is a master plan city, and in master plan cities you have your commercial development, which is the main component for the city to develop. And around that, what you'll see is the residential apartments coming to facilitate, the staff and the employees working within these commercial establishments. And with that, you will see a lot of entertainment taking place. So you'll have your retail operations on the side, and hospitality also plays a huge role. So given that there is like 1.2 kilometers of beachfront, it always gives the opportunity for hotel providers, international hotel brands, hospitality brands, villas to be set up, and for a very niche and high net worth audience to come and set up within the port city. Now, in order to supplement that development, there is also an area in the port city which has been allocated for social infrastructure projects such as world-class hospitals, schools, universities. There is also going to be an international convention and trade center. We're also looking at the marina and the operations around the marina to supplement this value addition, and a casino and integrated resort and theme park. So this is a fully fledged city, and there is also the provision to have a light rail system and a ferry system so that transportation is also encouraged in a more sustainable manner. So these are some of the benefits that you can gain.
So I guess with completion of Colombo Port City, I think this will bring the city into the next level, I guess. And at the same time, all these projects coming in, and which I think you are starting from one section and spreading it to the rest of the port city. So what developers, what facilities already confirmed and finalized within the port city, so we know that these things are already there, already in the process of completing the process, and then people can understand what's going to come in the next several years. What is the total time span of expected completion?
Sure. So I think we've had a lot of interest, and there have been few parties that have actually committed to doing developments within the port city. The marina has already broken ground. We see most of the construction work ongoing. There are 3 other parties that are currently involved in residential apartment projects. We also have a few other social infrastructure projects that are ongoing and in detailed discussion. So with this, there is a very strong momentum that we've seen, and coupled with the impact of the West Asian crisis, we're getting more and more I would say inquiries.
As an alternative discussion, I guess, destination maybe?
Absolutely. And I think, how things have changed is there is now a shift towards how to deploy smart capital. And, the traditional models are changing, and people are now looking at more innovative investment mechanisms, structuring that is done. For instance, the timeshare model is something that we are very strongly, getting a lot of interest for, because these are more, structured models which enhance the potential of the port city as a foreign offshore destination. So adding to that, I think there is another aspect of it. I think the regulatory and the sort of dispute resolution aspect. So similar to other economic zones, the commercial disputes within the port city are regulated through an international arbitration center. So this gives investors.
So that's a very
confidence.
important point, Taamara, because if any investors who are going into port city, if they run into any conflicts, the conflict resolutions will not be conducted within the Sri Lankan legal system in that case. So the time that it could take may be minimized with the international arbitration process that you have already implemented. Can you elaborate a little bit on that, how that's going to work? What is the provisions currently established within the port city?
So I think, it's very straightforward. So you have very similar setups that you have in Dubai and Singapore for international arbitration, and any commercial dispute will be regulated and managed through this international arbitration process. So already this has been set up in the port city, and the port city itself is covered under the Colombo Port City Economic Commission Act, and this also very specifically sets out the rules, regulations, and even, I'll go one step further and tell you a little bit about how the development control regulations work, because compared to the mainland, I think the development control regulations also have been set up and documented and gazetted. So for each, land parcel that is to be developed, the development control regulations have been already established in terms of, say, the minimum gross flow areas, the minimum flow area ratios, the height restrictions, the composition of what you can build and what you can't build. And this is kind of tagged to the master plan of the port city, because within the master plan, the feasibility has been done through international consultants, right? To understand how the population dynamics are going to work. For instance, the traffic congestion. This is again not I would say, a crowded city. So this is a well-defined and planned city with a lower density. so to speak of, right? Because what we're doing is we're trying to attract premium visitors and expats and high net worth individuals, and we want to create that environment where they can sort of function in a very progressive manner.
That's very good. And the processes and regulations in place. One of the concern, most of the general public who are going to buy apartments, I would say, or office spaces or any other facilities, there are so many experience within the inland Sri Lanka where people purchased apartments and then the developer gone bankrupt, for example, and then deliverables are not being met on time. So there are incompleted developments sitting in the middle of the Colombo city. We can see several at the moment. So what are the measures that we have within Port City that such thing will not happen? So no any abandoned buildings or halfway completed buildings going to be sitting in the middle of the Port City. If there are any issues like that, are there any provisions for that?
So, I mean, let's address this look at this in a couple of angles. So, I think one thing is due to the sheer size of the investment in Port City and the rigorous sort of due diligence process that not only the project company takes up, but also the Port City Economic Commission also has a significant role to play in order to ascertain and sort of do the due diligence and vet these developers, funders, investment sort of the parties who would then bring in the investment capital. So that is one aspect of it. And also, given the fact that all the regulations are in place, it is very clear cut in terms of how one can operate, what are the legal restrictions and the regulatory sort of enactments, so that that also will have a very strong foundation to provide stability to anyone who's going to sort of come in and make investments into the Port City.
So that's a very good news for people going to involve in Port City transactions or investments. Because at SA Thomson, we also want to make sure that we are promoting a product that the deliverables are certain, and because the people will make decisions based on the credibility of those developers as well. So when it comes to investments, working with Port City and SA Thomson collaboration, we can now facilitate investors to go and invest in the Port City. So I would say the ticket size is very high. The investment's going to be, compared to mainland, going to be higher. So maybe a single developer won't be able to do a single development. So that's why the consortium type of concepts being implemented. So the investment can be combined with the different expertise of the investors. So would you elaborate on that point, so we can facilitate any Australian investors, they can combine as a consortium to execute these development plots? So there are mixed developments, I guess, and there are residential developments, commercial development, and there's a lot of interest keep coming from different parts of the world. But Australia, now that we have seen a response for that, SA Thomson, we are working closely with the Port City to bridge this and offer this the service. Taamara, would you explain how these consortiums can work?
To kind of give you some indication, so within some of these land parcels, yes, I agree, they are compared to maybe some of the land parcels available on the mainland, I mean, you're not going to find the size and the scale of project opportunities. So I think the Port City then gives you that size and scale, which can then attract larger sort of developers, larger investors who are looking at investments ranging from $100 million upwards, right? So when it comes to managing these, yes, consortiums have been used. I mean, there are structuring processes that we can, of course, leverage in order to set up strategic business opportunities. There are mixed use developments where you'll have a combination of, say, residential and commercial and retail as a mix. So then there can be parties who have a better expertise in, say, residential versus maybe commercial, and connecting these parties and doing some structuring around these can benefit both the entities in terms of the economies of scale, in terms of economies of scope, for instance, and creating these synergies.
So, which is, I just want to add one more point into that, because Port City lands, when you purchase to do any development, the settlement time periods are longer, I guess 4 to 5 years, if I am not mistaken. So that gives the facility, the opportunity for people to start development and continue with the projects on a longer settlement basis, which is also, I think, make it attractive for developers to look at the consortium-based developments. So, Taamara, that is people coming into it as an investment. And then the second, the other segment is without any investment, how the companies can set up and operate under the Port City, which is a different segment, the BPO services, accounting services, IT services, who would like to offer services out of Sri Lanka but yet can operate within the Port City as an international service provider. What are the benefits, how it can be set up, and can you explain more on that? I think there are a lot of companies who are getting offshore services can be benefit out of this model as well.
Absolutely. I mean, so why Port City makes a compelling value proposition is due to a few reasons. One is, if you compare the living cost, and that would then translate into the the commercial rentable spaces. So you look at both these aspects, and then you suddenly realize that there is a lot of opportunity to get the similar kind of services at a lower price point, right? And the other opportunity there is to tap into the local talent base. So Sri Lanka, in terms of literacy, is ranked the highest in Asia, in South Asia. And we also have the feeder institutions, right? The universities, the tertiary education facilities, and the professional bodies that, provide access to like a significant talent base, especially in the areas that you mentioned, like the IT BPO industry, the financial services industry, the logistics, travel, tourism, and professional services. So for companies that want to leverage this opportunity, I think Port City is a fantastic location. And coupled to that, we also have a very streamlined onboarding process, with the Port City Economic Commission sitting as the single window investment facilitator. And even the application process is very streamlined, and we are looking at onboarding companies, foreign companies, within 7 to 10 days, specifically focusing on the UAE and the West Asian region.
So that cut down the red tapes and then make it faster entry point to the Port City investments and opportunities, which is great, Taamara. I think the message from SA Thomson, from us, is to Australian investors or people looking at setting up as a offshore development setup and moving into Port City, is that we are now can facilitate all of these things through SA Thomson with the partnership of Port City Sri Lanka. And Taamara, once again, thank you for coming, and we look forward to host you guys again in May in our International Property Expo in Melbourne in May 30th and 31st. So we're looking forward to host Melbourne investors and direct these investors to the Port City Sri Lanka and maximize the opportunity. So thank you so much for coming today and having this very informative discussion. Looking forward to see you guys back in Melbourne again in May.
Thank you, Sanjika. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
All the best.